and their role in the formation of the New World Order. In diplomacy, we shouldn't burn all our boats. Unfortunately, NATO cannot now play the role of the medium powers. So let the Canadian Prime Minister look for medium powers who can go and stroke the ego of Trump. I don't want anybody to get me wrong. I am not but you look for can issue the relationship had to go to the White House and say all the right things. Even publicly, he's saying all the right things to assuage Trump, so he doesn't withdraw from NATO. And that's the kind of thing he likes. So I will say that the Prime Minister of Canada has a role to play now to assemble medium powers that can go, because in a way, Pakistan is a medium power. It's not one of the superpowers, even though it has nuclear weapons. So that expands the remit of what the Canadian Prime Minister can do. So he can then go to Trump, and even China can also be part of this, even though China is on the side of Iran. But we all know that Trump is about to embark on a trip to China because he for some reason, he and the Chinese get along. China can, even though it's a global power, but in this case, let's not be too finicky about the use of our terms. But in the next 2 weeks, we must have interlocutors who will back up the intervention of the intervention of Pakistan in order to get more room. But please, let's not go back to what we went through in the past 72 hours when we had to hang in there.
So let's explore one area that I don't think we've explored properly on the broadcast, and that is the response of other Gulf states who are kind of caught in between their relationship with the US and their relationship with Iran, and how to navigate that divide. Obviously, some of them had lots of military bases. And one of the terms that I believe the Iranians had put forward was the US should remove the military bases in the Middle East. How should the Gulf states be playing their diplomacy towards Iran and their relationship with the United States? How do they balance that?
Well, I will say that the Gulf Arab states are playing their diplomacy very, very well. As you rightly said in your intro, they're in the middle. Iran is a neighbor. Iran is not an Arab country. So on an ethnic basis, they are not related. They are not related. Well, you may say they are cousins. They are not brothers. Number two, on geopolitical basis, the Gulf Arab states have allowed the United States to put their assets in that area. Not, and I'm sure they know this, that when you are, well, it was Kennedy who once said, if you are riding on the back of a tiger, be careful, because the only way you get off is to end up inside the tiger. So when you are allowing a superpower to locate its assets, it's an uneven game. So in a way, you cannot say that they will have a friendly relationship with Iran. Of course, Iran is also has antagonistic interests. So there's no open diplomatic game that the Gulf Arab states can play. But what they are doing, or what we assume they are doing, is behind the scene to explain to the Americans that, well, you can see we are the ones being bombed. You are not being bombed. It's true your assets are targets, but we also have assets, our desalinization assets that are being destroyed. And there's no clean water in the Arab states. They are heavily dependent on the purifying salt water for everything that they do. And if Iran start bombing, if even power supply that's generated to purify this, it is our cost. In fact, that's basic danger to us. So I think that silent diplomacy, I don't think they're sitting on their hands doing nothing. Silent diplomacy is because the Americans say, all right, we pull all our assets out of your territory. Who's going to protect them against Iran without getting? So in a way, it's America that also has to negotiate their interests. But there are so many issues involved in this. Last week, Iran came up with a proposal. That is the proposal that has not received the attention it should receive. They may not be serious. It could be a proposal to get Iran over the barrel but it was proposing a council of mutual interests between Iran and the Arab states in dealing with global issues. So this will be the first time Iran will come up with a proposal like that. And my own interpretation is, let's forget the antagonism of the past. Yes, you are Arab, we are Persian. You are Sunnis, we are Sunnis, yes, you are Sunnis, we are Sufis?
Shia.
Thank you. We are Shiites. So yes, all these interests are there. But can we just overlook the past and let us move forward? I say more attention. We shouldn't just dismiss offhand, or they shouldn't dismiss offhand this proposal from Iran. But I think the diplomacy of the Arab Gulf states has to be a quiet, silent, behind the scenes one. And I think that's what they are doing.
There's one point you raised there, sir, that maybe we should drill into a little bit. There was a reason for the US bases to be in the Gulf states anyway. And while it bolstered US capability in terms of being able to respond to situations like this or incidents like this, it also means that the US was also providing some protection to the US was also providing protection to some of these Arab states. Now it would be clear to the Arab states that the level of protection you thought you were going to get, you are actually not going to be getting that level of protection. What should they do? Should they be asking for more protection from the US as a result of what has happened? And should the US actually be stepping up what they are doing in the region now that they've realized that Iran is not a walkover, and Iran is never going to be a walkover, given they're still shooting missiles now after all the stuff that has happened to them over the last 40 days?
No, I get you. I get the point you're making. I get the point you are making. I believe that we should try to avoid what the American called the post.
We can see someone behind you, sir. But that's sorry. Apologies for noting that it was.
That's the granddaughter. Bolaji.
Go ahead, sir. I think we're also having internet connections at the same time, which is probably a good thing. So it means that it rectifies the situation for us.
So just pay attention, Prof. Just pay attention.
Go ahead, sir. Oh dear, hold on. We need to unmute you. Sorry, sir. Just bear with me 1 second. It should pop up with a message.
It's pop up. We've done it.
Thank you, sir.
Yes.
Go ahead, sir.
I was saying, look, the system in place has served the interest for years. The fact that it has failed this time is because circumstances have changed. Circumstances have been created a crisis that has allowed even Israel to execute a program that for 40 years has been on Netanyahu's table. Several times, American presidents have had to put a check on Netanyahu. So it's just that this time you have a president who, for reasons which we will later on get to know, absence of good advisors around him, experienced advisors who have gone through this kind of crisis before and had seen through, Netanyahu's something. So let's not beat down a system that has worked. We now need to work on this system now that we have a new Middle East. They've shown what Iran can do. And I recall saying on this platform, maybe sometimes last year, that Iran has assets that it's probably letting the Americans know, but it's not using them. Because I think this was at a time when, it's not even the 12-day confrontation, just one before then, when Iran will let America know this is how far we will go. Israel will let America know this is how far we will go. And I think it's because Iran was telling the Americans its own capability. Now we've seen the capability, and a new system has to be put in place to factor in whatever agreement is reached in terms of getting a peace treaty. It's a peace treaty that Iran needs with America, and that brings in Israel. It's not a ceasefire. A ceasefire has limitations, so we'll get back to it.
There's a comment here from Olayinka Raji. It says, I'd have thought that Israel should be involved because the Lebanon aspect is entirely in the hands of Israel. And if Israel is not involved, how would there be an agreement? Israel is relentless in its pursuit of the greater Israel agenda and has even demarcated Lebanon and continues to bomb Beirut. I believe Iran will continue to bomb Israel as long as Lebanon is still bombed. What's your take to that? So I think this is in relation to the meeting that's happening in Pakistan and the fact that Israel appears to be left out of that. I think that's what Olayinka Raji is referring to there, sir.
Yeah, Captain Raji is absolutely right. I agree with him. I don't believe Israel is left out. Israel is a surrogate of the United States. And whatever the United States agrees to, if it wants Israel to agree to it, it will clobber Israel into agree to it. So Israel does not have to be personally in Islamabad tomorrow. I have myself some conflicting attitude towards what's happening in Lebanon. I let us all agree that Hezbollah is a creation of Iran. And if you've ever seen those parades held in Lebanon, honestly, Hezbollah is a state within a state. So the first thing we should agree is the Lebanese government cannot control Hezbollah. You will need Israel, or again, you will need a combination of medium powers that can act on, you know, there's been for more than 40 years a United Nations peacekeeping force, peace enforcement, let me put it that way, in Lebanon. But that was at a time when the United States, Russia, China, the Security Council of the United Nations agreed that you needed a force between Lebanon and Israel that to separate. I visited that force when I was Director General of the Institute, and we had a battalion there under Lieutenant Colonel Oluri. I visited them, and they were doing a good job because they were neutral. But actually, Israel never allowed them to perform their function to 100% level. But now that the United Nations system has scattered, thanks to the United States, by the way, Israel even has killed some of these United Nations peacekeeping forces. So, but you are going to need a force that can dismantle Hezbollah. So I suspect, and I'm suggesting that, and I agree with Captain Raji, I think that's where I'm going, that in any agreement with Iran, Iran must agree to control Hezbollah. It must agree. And it must keep to that agreement. And I think that is the only way that Israel and the United States will allow for a Hezbollah existence, but that does not pose any threat to Israel, number one. Number two, that will not be more powerful than the Lebanese government. So I think on that, those will have to be two terms of the agreement with Iran.
Okay. I'll take some comments now. I can see a hand up, but I want to make a quick comment here before I call. I call people based on the names that I see on here. So I don't know titles. I don't know who is who. So I do apologize if I just call the name that I see on the screen that pops up. I might not use the right title. Please, I apologize for that. So I can see Femi D. Ojumo. Femi D. Ojumo, please go ahead and unmute yourself.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Prof, for your excellent insights as always. I was quite struck about the concert of medium powers, because it's really striking and really important on a number of fronts. Number one, we can see that the Abraham Accords are effectively limited. And the corollary of that is that Pakistan, as an interlocutor, has assumed a greater responsibility, in mediating between the US and Iran. So the question for me is, given the extreme limitations and actual fragmentation of the Abraham Accords, don't we see more of a role for medium powers now? Because there is a trust deficit. The Gulf states, of course, they're not going to say this publicly, because the US, when push came to shove over the last couple of weeks, we're not able to substantially defend the Gulf states, who have invested a lot of resources, trust that the US weapons defense systems could protect them from all manner of drone attacks. So I'll just be interested in those insights, sir. The likes of Canada, the likes of Pakistan, and even India, because India is going to get very jittery now that the role of Pakistan has been heightened. And of course, there remains tension between India and Pakistan. So perhaps some explication on how medium powers could assume a greater responsibility in this crisis and going forward. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Femi. You've just explained the limitation of the members of the Abraham Accord, because the Abraham Accord was designed to get the Gulf Arab states to negotiate a peace treaty with Israel, a peace treaty that will be based on recognition, diplomatic recognition with Israel. And so that can only apply to Gulf Arab states. And the moment that limitation is there, you've excluded Iran, and you've excluded other Arab states who actually would like the Palestinian issue to be resolved before they sign a diplomatic agreement with Israel. What has just happened before we came on, although it might have been going on from the beginning now, is there are now food riots in Ireland arising out of increase in all kinds of prices. So in a way, Ireland, another medium power country, is already being affected. And even though the African countries are quiet, I think it's a matter of regret that countries like Nigeria, like South Africa, and maybe even like Cote d'Ivoire, which we can regard as countries of influence within Africa, right now are also quiet, even though they're going to be affected in terms of food prices. They're going to be affected in terms of prices of refined products. Cannot see their interests being affected, that they can now reach out, I will say, to the Prime Minister of Canada to be part of this medium power, so will join Pakistan in order to, as a number one, make make Trump more pliable, appeal to his ego, and they probably will have ideas as to how to pull back the United States, India, and Israel into accepting you know what I mean, that will pull us back and make the core issues of the countries who are involved in the Middle East, make their core issues to be addressed. But I agree with Femi in terms of the issues he has raised.
You touched on a very important point, sir, before I would call on the next hand that I can see on. And that's this issue of how 40 days of conflict in Iran is now impacting the rest of the world on a scale that over 3 years of the war between Russia and Ukraine has not quite impacted the rest of the world.
Mm-hmm.
And what that says to the relevance of Russia versus Iran on the global stage. And I thought it would be good for us to look at that angle of one area, the whole world is starting to reel from the pain. In the other area, yes, a little bit, but then we kind of adjusted, but price of oil did not go up as it did. And then secondly, sir, is when we look at the way Western economies have now been impacted and were going to be impacted if this had continued much longer, is it about time we started to rethink this whole idea of globalization and how we move resources, and we're dependent on certain areas because we think that there are cheaper economies for us to run some of the services that we need? Maybe people now need to be focusing inward and making their own countries great again, making their own countries more self-sufficient.
I think no. I think you have too many issues to get that you can then use. That the way you play them ends up making the world either less safe or more safe, and the effect on your own economy. Frankly, what do you call it? I can never remember the phraseology, but the impact on the world economy of from the, what do you call this, earth elements, if the African countries had the control of it, frankly, it can have a higher impact on the global economy than what is happening even in the Hormuz, the oil something, is because the impact on the oil economy, that's why we are feeling the expanse into global economy. But because we Africans don't control these earth elements, the rare earth elements, because we don't control it, therefore it is fragmentalized, and its impact on the world economy is not as felt as crude oil impact. The basic thing is the impact of crude oil on our economy. That's why. So I believe that the African countries, because that is where these rare earth elements are based, have to find a way of not allowing themselves to be perforated by whether it's the Chinese and the Americans, and let them see how the control of one of the channel is bringing now the economy of the world into the impact that we are feeling, and we haven't stopped feeling it. The longer that channel, and that's really, I think, the point we should be making. But unfortunately, the leadership element in Africa is under the control of these same superpowers, the Chinese, the Americans, and therefore the effect on the world economy is not as negative as just this oil. If that channel of Hormuz was not there, do you think we would be feeling it? Just control of one channel. That's the lesson we should learn. That's the lesson we should learn.
Thank you, sir. I can see another hand raised. Baye. Can you please unmute yourself, sir?
Is that Clem Baye?
Yes, sir. Good evening, Prof.
Hello, Clem.
Yes, how are you? Thank you very much for the analysis. Prof, I just want to say one or two things and run them by you. First of all, I feel, and you may have said this before, I try to be on every session, but at times I don't, I have to go off because of some commitments. I think that President Trump made, and the Americans generally, made a strategic miscalculation about this war on Iran with Israel. Yes, they've decapitated the leadership. Yes, they've blown a lot of things. But the most difficult thing, and the most important perhaps, is their inability to even locate those the uranium, which is a gas which the Iranians have hidden. I don't know where they've hidden it. They can't locate them. And even if they say they are going to send troops to go and locate them and bring them out, that would be a very, very difficult thing for them to achieve. So in my view, whatever it may be, the Americans will win all the battles, but actually strategically, the Iranians have won the war. Yes, Israel has decapitated their leadership. They've done so many things, but I think there was a miscalculation. And then President Trump alienated his so-called allies in NATO by calling them all sorts of names and not seeking their buy-in into his adventure in Iran. The second point I wanted to make, Prof, is that at times people say that Trump is a fool. He doesn't know what he's doing. But the opinion of some also is that he's not exactly a fool. That just behaving the way he does with his blunderbuss is part of his strategy. So you never know what he's thinking. He says, "Oh, we are going to bomb Iran into non-existence within the next 48 hours." He backs out. He's going to invade Greenland. He backs out. Some think that is his own strategy. And you're a scholar of international relations. I just want to plead that to help us assess this. Is there any precedent of a president who is facing 2 or 3 directions at the same time? Thank you for the opportunity.
Thank you, Clem. Yes, it could be an irrational way of achieving its objectives. But the most powerful man in the world also has limitations on his behavior, because there are other leaders who are watching this. You know, one of the responsibilities of the most powerful man in the world is to set a behavioral pattern that others can copy and use as justification not to do certain things or to do certain things. It's an optics problem. There is no there's no United States president who has ever behaved like a thug, and who has brought the world, who has behaved like a Hitler. I mean, let's call it spade a spade. Not that there are not things they have done which we should find abhorrent. After all, the United States was the only country, or is the only country that has used nuclear weapons against another country. Nelson Mandela brought that to our attention, even though we had all known, but we didn't just have the courage to say so. And Nelson Mandela has said that's a blot on the moral standing of the United States. So there is a responsibility level below which the United States is not allowed to fall, because that's the most powerful country in the world. Now, Trump has crossed that. He has crossed that. Whether he means it or not, we don't know. And that's why I started off this evening by thanking Pakistan. In fact, Pakistan maybe saved his face for him. Maybe he didn't intend to do it, but maybe intended to do it. We don't know, but we shouldn't take that risk. That the man with his button on the nuclear weapon will have a strategy of threatening to destroy a whole civilization. He brought the whole world to the edge. Because what's he going to use? Nuclear weapons that will save all of us? We will be immune to? You know, there was this, now just I'm about to say it, this nuclear explosion. Again, it was in Russia, and the effect of till today, they're still feeling it. I even think whether it's in Europe.
Chernobyl, sir.
Eh?
Chernobyl,
thank you.
Yeah.
The effect of it, when that wind blew into Northern Europe, is still being felt. And who knows how far that has gone. Now, if it's going to destroy the civilization, what weapon is it going to use? And are we going to be immune? Is the United States going to be immune? So in a way, Clem, yes, it may be that's the way he negotiates, but it's not acceptable. Definitely not.
Festus Oshifeso, can you go ahead and mute yourself?
Good afternoon, everyone. Good evening. I was gonna maybe slightly disagree with a couple of things people said earlier today. One is about the usefulness of countries like Canada or even Ireland in this global flashpoint. And I think they're all useless. Middle countries are useless in this context. They've shown how useless they are in not actually stopping the war. Even the Europeans are also useless as well, since they haven't really played any major role in stopping or actually doing anything regarding this war. Then the other thing that someone said about Iran, these peace talks with containing Hezbollah, they don't really need to contain Hezbollah because they have leverage. Maybe before the war, yeah, you could actually pressure them to contain Hezbollah, but now that it's the Americans actually trying to sue for peace, not Iran. So why should they really listen to what, other than if they're actually just trying to like maintain peace? But the situation now is Iran has monopoly over violence in the area, and they can shut that place down and screw the major world economy. Asia needs oil, Europe needs oil, and the Gulf countries needs to sell oil to make money. I think what the Americans have just shown is just the rather despotic nature of Donald Trump's regime is giving Iran a lot more than what they had before this war started. So I'm just curious to know what's going to happen in the near future. But I don't think this ceasefire is going to last, or this ceasefire is going to last. The US has actually passed this draft, male from age 18 to 25. So that's basically saying, they are beating the drums of war. I also know Germany, they are also repping up their military. If they don't have access to oil, energy from the Middle East, you should naturally expect Germany or even Japan to militarize and go and get resources, because America is proving that if they can actually contain the situation in the Middle East, then why should they need to be there? Why should anyone actually plan their defense off of America's protection? And then if I'm America, if I'm advising the US president, at this point, they have to just double down on the war to preserve their currency, petrodollar. They just have to, they have no other option. They shouldn't have gone into the war, but now that they are in, it's because if I'm Iran, I want to control that area and make sure that they are paying tolls or using my currency or paying gold to me or whatnot. You have to push the Americans out completely. That's what common sense would dictate, or else they keep on coming for your leaders. If you're the US as well, your empire depends on petrodollar. So if the Gulf countries are not selling all in your currency, or you can't control, protect, contain that place, then I mean your empire is pretty much done. So either you fight completely or you actually re-strategize. Take Canada, take Greenland. The world is not fair. Control Mexico about where you want. You already have Venezuela. And if you actually need to take Nigeria also, I mean, by proxy, you might as well do it. How should the US actually escalate the war in the Middle East? They might actually even give law American citizenship to maybe Nigerians or whatnot who are actually poor, starving. Let them go and waste their lives out there fighting for the US. The world is not fair, but to think there's going to be peace in the near term is obviously fallacy. You will want to preach peace and diplomacy and all that, but we've gone beyond that. In the next 5, 10 years, it's going to be more wars, not less. So how do you actually strategize in the near future? Europe is useless. Only if Europe can actually have more leverage in Africa, basically. Other than that, Europe is basically useless. So I'm interested in getting the professor's take on what I've just said.
Well, let me just, let's focus on the immediate crisis. Whatever may be all the issues you've raised, the point I want to make is no country wants to be destroyed. No matter how mad their leaders are, no civilization wants to be crushed. To that extent, Iran itself is going to be looking for a way out of this crisis we are in. No matter, I mean, maybe because I've been involved, not at too deep a level, but people, if I told you the kind of background concessions that the ANC was making to the apartheid regime that finally led to the release of Nelson Mandela, you'll be surprised. Not that there were no hardliners within the ANC who wanted a fight to the finish, but there were also others who said, even if we are going to win, there must be something we will show as winner issue. So I applied that to Iran. I'm sure Iran was so happy to have the Pakistani intervention. They didn't, like us, they didn't know how far. And you know, when you are fighting a Hitler, you don't play into his hands. So, and that's why different people have gone on the air to claim victory. The Americans have claimed victory, the Iranians have claimed victory. But I saw the game that was being played, and I was happy that even Iran knew when to apply the brakes. And that is the diplomacy we should be encouraging. I agree with you that the empire of petrodollar is over, but empires don't collapse overnight. It will take time. But I mean, when the dollar was, you know, hooked onto the gold standard, people could see it gradually, gradually going down until Nixon finally unhooked it. But the effect is always not immediate. So I agree with you that we are seeing a collapse of the petrodollar empire. We are seeing the beginning of it, but this is not the end of it.
Sir, I will end the broadcast this evening with one major topic, sir. And this is something that was updated a few hours ago on Reuters. The Chinese foreign minister is visiting Pyongyang to advance relations. And one of the things that struck me there is he said the traditional friendship between China and North Korea, forged in blood, will never fade and is unbreakable. And this visit is coming ahead of an expected summit between China and President Trump, as you mentioned earlier. Coming at this time, working together on deeper relationships between China and North Korea, what signal is that sending ahead of this visit of President Trump?
Well, there is no on the stove problem between the United States and North Korea, not now. That front is quiet. Since North Korea became a nuclear power, the United States itself has gone soft. And I'm not aware that the relationship between North Korea and the United States is on the menu for the visit of Trump with the United. Yeah. I mean, nobody is telling North Korea to dismantle its nuclear program. So honestly, I'm not clued in into. I think that section of the world, thank God, has gone quiet, and we don't have what's his name, Trump, targeting North Korea over anything.
All right, thank you very much, sir. And on that note, I will bring the broadcast tonight to an end. Thank you to everyone on Zoom here and to those who are on YouTube. Let me just see if there's any other comments. Professor Sylvester Akin says, would you agree that US-Israel war on Iran has somewhat shown the limits of US military might in terms of conventional war without the support of NATO?
Mm. You know, I did warn about 30 minutes ago that we should be careful about, interpreting what is happening without localizing the issues. To me, what has checkmated, or what has shown the limitation of the United States and Israel is actually the possession, the power capability of Iran. And that is why, even though Iran has given up its nuclear program, the last Ayatollah that was killed has issued a fatwa that there will be no development of nuclear weapons. But what Iran is holding on to is the capability of the missiles. And the missiles showed a delivery capability. That has nothing to do with NATO. It has to do and to that, all it is Europe. Anyway, okay, we are back online.
Yes, we're back now, sir.
Okay, let me just round up. All we have seen is the capability of an offensive, what do you call those? An offensive capability by Iran. That's what has checkmated the United States and checkmated Israel. Because when a United States president start going for what I will call almost the Samson syndrome, I will destroy you. And so it's not a rational decision. And even if NATO had been involved, all it would have opened up is Europe to those what do you call the weapons that Iran has been using to deliver, things to the Arab, the Gulf Arab countries, and even Israel itself.
Thank you very much, sir. I'll bring the program to a close now, and we'll be back same time next week, continuing to explore more of these issues. Thank you very much, everyone that has been part of the broadcast this evening. Good night, everyone. Have a lovely rest of your day.
Thank you. I'm not going.